And the following is a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program are solely that of Jung Garden Center in Randolph, not WBEV 95X or Good Karma Brands. And we welcome in Dick Zondag, the doctor who's making a house call. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, John.
How are you on this Wednesday? That's not too bad out there. We've had some pretty good weather.
It's in mid-40s, I guess, and so things are starting to happen. You know, the grass is getting green and forsythia is blooming, and thought I'd bring along a few shrubs today just to show that things are happening outside.
I should mention, too, Dick, before you go on, that we are streaming live video on dailydodge.com so you can see what Dick is talking about there. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the spring flowering shrubs, starting to look at them, and I did bring along a PJM hybrid rhododendron. It's kind of a unique plant in that most of the rhododendrons, azaleas, and blueberries require a very acid soil or an acid soil. But this particular rhododendron seems to thrive in our type of soils. And so I know my grandfather had one in front of his house for many, many years. And when it's in blossom, the cars would slow down just to take a look at it. And it is also an evergreen one that keeps its leaves all winter long. So it's a very pretty shrub to have, and it sort of has a magenta-colored blossoms. And the shrub, when it's in bloom, is just fully covered with the shrubs. And then I brought along a spirea. Of course, the bridal wreath spireas are very pretty in the springtime. And then I also noticed one in our yard that I thought was flowering when I first looked at it, but it's actually a nine bark that has yellow leaves, and the yellow leaves from a distance look like it's in blossom. I also saw one of my favorite pie plants when we get into the season. I love rhubarb pie, so we do force our rhubarb so that we have some of them growing. If the people want to buy a potted rhubarb versus a one that's dormant, we have those available. And the perennials are starting to come in. We were a little bit hesitant about bringing them out because we have forced them a little bit in the greenhouse so that they have some of their leaf colors and some of the flowers and things like that that come in the spring. And the bedding plants and vegetable will be coming in probably by the end of the week, but we always say May 1 is the time that we bring the things out. So, of course, we got lawn fertilizers and strawberry plants and some raspberries and things like that ready to go in the bare root room. Some of the blueberries. We'll have potted blueberries available too. So we got pretty much everything happening right now.
And again, if you want to give us a call, 885-4446 is the number, 885-4446. If you want to ask our garden doctor a question, both lines are open at this time. And as I mentioned, we're streaming video. Dick, what is the largest selling flower that you sell? Is it the rose?
Yeah, probably roses, because we have a rose catalog, and we sell probably, I think, around 500,000 rose bushes, that go all over the United States, of course, not just for this area, but we have one of our catalogs called Edmonds roses that we sell some of the newest varieties plus some of the old varieties. We have tree roses, roses that are grafted onto standards that you can plant. But yeah, so we were very busy shipping those out. We're coming kind of close to the end of the season for the bare root roses, but we also have potted roses available for Mother's Day too. So, try to take care of our customers.
All right, we do have one line lit up, so we'll go to the phones and say good morning. You're on the air with Dick Zondag.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello.
I have a question for you. I have some 2,4-D spray.
Okay.
That it's the green and gold season with the dandelions.
Yes, it is.
And is there a shelf life on this stuff?
It depends on how you store it. If you store it properly, probably a year or two you can use it. I guess the the way to find out is if it's effective is to just spray it on the plant, on the dandelions and the creeping Charlie that are starting to grow now. And actually now is a good time to start controlling those broadleaf weeds that are in the lawns because they are starting to grow and they're
I sprayed it on Monday.
Okay.
And it was warm, and then Tuesday, I gave them another shot with the stuff, and they just look like the neighbors. Everything is doing just fine.
Yeah, it takes a few days for the spray to be effective, but I would say if
Wait
after
till
our
the
first
weekend, maybe,
warm
and then-
streak,
and then
it looks like it's not doing much good. It probably isn't effective.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for calling.
All right, thank you for your call. We'll go to the other line. Good morning. You're on with the Garden Doctor.
Oh, good morning. I have a large blue spruce tree that was planted, 20 years ago or
Okay.
so, and like many spruce trees, it got too big for where it's at, so
Sure.
I've done like a lot of people have done. It's cut up about 5 or 6 feet.
Right.
And now I have all the, dead ground underneath or the dead grass, very acidy, I'm assuming. And I'm looking to maybe plant some perennials under there, and I was wondering if anything, what would be the best thing to plant? I'm sure the ground is, from the needles and such, is very acidy.
Well, actually, I would say it probably isn't. But the most perennials will handle the type of soil that's underneath a spruce tree. But what you have to do is use plants that are shade tolerant because the spruce will be shading the plants. So things like bleeding hearts. If you want to have some summer color, the impatiens or coleus do very well in shade. If you're
I
looking,
believe it's a fairly sunny location. I mean, it's on the south side of the house, so
Okay.
it does get quite a bit of sun.
okay, so then I would say any perennial would probably
okay.
do well, and
I-
then it's
it would-
just. No, go
My
ahead.
thought was perennials probably wouldn't do well because of the soil, but
No,
maybe-
the soil probably is a little more acid than what it is in the surrounding area, but I wouldn't think that it would be much more because the soil is a buffered system. It tends to go back to where it was.
Oh, okay.
And because Wisconsin sits on a big piece of limestone, the soil tends to be sweet and goes back to that particular pH. So,
All right.
I mean, if you want to make sure what it is, just take a soil sample and take it to the county agent or there are places where you can get your soil tested and find
Sure.
out what the pH is.
I think I'll just go with the plan of planting something and see what happens.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yep.
Thank you
too.
very much for your call. 885-4446-1920. 885-4446 if you want to get on the air with Dick Zondag from Jung Garden Center in Randolph. Let's go to our next caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Say, I really like roses, and I plant them, and it seems like they'll only last about 2 years, and then they die out on me. Now, I'm planting them on the east side of the house. Do you think it's too shaded there, or what would be the problem?
East side is very good because the morning sunlight evaporates the dew, and the dew is where the disease gets started. So no, the east side of the house is perfect. If you get a half a day's sunlight, roses should do fairly well. Do you cover them in the winter?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I guess then just fertilization. Roses are heavy feeders. They like to be fertilized, so fertilize them when they first start to grow. There's a 3-in-1 rose care that has both the fungicide, the insecticide, and a fertilizer in it that's very good to use on them. And then you fertilize them probably every 3 or 4 weeks up until about the middle of August, and that's when you want to stop fertilizing them because roses are not very smart. They tend to grow whenever you cut them or fertilize them or water them, and if they grow too long into the fall, they don't get prepared for winter, and that's when you lose a lot of the hybrid teas and the grandifloras and the floribundas.
But you're saying to continue fertilizing them through the summer?
Through the summer, yep, until about the 1st of August.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. We are streaming live on dailydodge.com. Also here, of course, on 1430 WBEV. Let's go to the phones and take another caller. You're on the air with Dick Zondag.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question here. I put down grass seed, a landscaper mix,
Okay.
which I guess is a little bit more rye in it and everything, but it's already been established grass. I was trying to overseed.
Okay.
Just threw it around. But what's your feeling on that? I mean, did I maybe use the wrong mix of stuff? Should I have went with a better product, maybe a better selection, like more bluegrass or something possibly?
Yeah,
than
with
with
the
a
mixes
landscaper
that we use, that we sell, the Madison Parks, and there are several others that we sell, have around 10% rye in them to give you your nurse crop to get the lawn going. I would say, yeah, if you've got more than 10% rye in there, they're using rye as a filler so that they can charge less money. Bluegrass, if you're seeding into an established lawn, you can seed a lot sparser than you do when you want to start a lawn. And what you do is you just spread it over the grass when it's dry, so it gets a chance to get down to the soil. And then if you want to get it going faster, you should water the lawn. But once you get a lawn going, usually fertilization, right at this time of the year, and then at the beginning of fall, will thicken that lawn up so you don't have to reseed over.
So do you think I did something wrong by I already put it down last week?
No, it's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just that fertilization, once the lawn is established, just keeping the lawn growing, because bluegrass does spread, and if it's fertilized, it will make a nice thick carpet for you, and then you don't have to reseed.
Okay, but you wouldn't be concerned now if I put a little more ryegrass, I mean, will that do anything for the grass that's already been there, I mean, will that start putting something else in there that I probably didn't really want or something?
Well, the reason that ryegrass is used is ryegrass will germinate much faster than the bluegrass, and when you're establishing a lawn, you want to get something up so that when the windy, hot weather comes, that the soil doesn't dry out, because the only thing that really kills grass seed is to have it start to germinate and then dry out. And so the ryegrass is mainly there for nurse crops, so that the soil is shaded when the hot, dry winds start coming. And most ryegrass will die out in the winter because they're not as hardy as the bluegrass. So the ryegrasses, they're basically to form a sort of a protective layer over the soil so that the bluegrass has a chance to start germinating. And once the bluegrass is up, just fertilizing it and keeping it growing well through the spring and then through the fall, because you don't want to fertilize a lawn in late spring or early summer, because then you're favoring the weeds that are coming up. The grass mainly goes dormant in the summertime. When it gets hot and dry, you'll notice that you don't have to mow as often to keep your lawn looking well, because grass kind of goes semi-dormant in the summertime and then starts growing again when the cool of fall comes. So the fertilizer does best when you do it in early spring and early fall, and then maybe even a winterizer in late fall, which has less nitrogen in it. And nitrogen is the thing that makes your grass grow, and that's the first number of a soil analysis, or of the fertilizer analysis.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Okay, well, I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
And thanks for calling.
Thank you very much for your call. 885-4446, 1-920-885-4446. You were talking about roses, a good place to plant them on the east side because of the morning light burning the dew. Are there other plants that are affected by when they get the sunlight?
Yeah, a lot of, some perennials are more subject to the powdery mildew and some of the other diseases if they're planted in the shade. Monarda is another one that has mildew problems, although some of the newer Monardas have some mildew resistance, but phlox and Monarda and a couple of others do have a problem with diseases. And the way that you keep them away from the disease is to make sure that they dry out before 10 or 11 in the morning, because the disease spores germinate in the dew, and once the germ tube, the little root, gets into the leaf, you've got the disease. Where if it dries off, a disease spore doesn't have the same storage capacity as a regular seed has. And so if you can keep that spore from getting the little rootlet into the leaf, you can control the disease better. And the way you do that is by putting them in an area where the dew dries off earlier in the morning, especially if we're having a wet season. Now, in this area, we're not having a lot of wet, and so we're not going to have as much problem with the spring diseases like the apple scab and things like that, because those particular diseases are most virulent in the spring, and that's when you have to do the most applications of your fungicide to keep the diseases down.
All right, we do have a caller on the line, and good morning. You're on the air with Dick Zondag from Jung Garden Center.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a big patch of red and black raspberries, and I think I have garlic mustard in it and killing them. And I was just wondering if you had any suggestions, and what's your thought of just planting grass there?
Yeah, the garlic mustard is a very aggressive weed, and you have one plant of garlic mustard 1 year, and the next year you have thousands, because they produce thousands of seeds. The only way you can really control garlic mustard is to get in there and pull it out once it starts. There are germination inhibitors that you can use that inhibits the germination of garlic mustard, but it's a pretty aggressive weed.
So you think preen would work on that?
Preen should work on that, yep.
Okay.
But you've got to get it on before the garlic mustard is there, because once the preen is a germination inhibitor, and once the plant has germinated, that particular herbicide is not effective, because it only kills the weed seed as it's germinating. And once this plant is germinated, the preen will not work at all. And there again, with pesticides like preen and some of the others, be sure and read the label as to whether you can apply it in your circumstances. But yeah, that's one of the herbicides off the top of my head that can be used for garlic mustard, because that comes from seed every year. There's no there's no roots or anything underground that are alive, but there are thousands of seeds.
Sure.
Once you get a plant in there.
But what's your thought of planting grass in there? You think grass would grow? Oh,
yeah, grass would outcompete it, that's for sure, especially if it's a sunny area. So planting grass seed would control it.
Okay, well, I will try that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your call. 885-4446-1920, 885-4446, the number to call, and both lines are open. What's our friend the emerald ash borer doing these days, Dick?
Well, it seems like people that want to keep their ash are treating them. We do have a tree and shrub pesticide that will control the emerald ash borer. It has to be applied right now at the base of the tree, and what you do is you just get a sprinkling can, and you read the instructions as to how much of the chemical you have to apply to that particular tree per inch of diameter of the tree, and then you put that amount of pesticide in that sprinkling can or whatever you're using for applying it, and apply it to the base of the tree where the tree meets the soil. It's called where the buttress roots are, and the plant actually takes the chemical up as the good stuff from the ground starts going up into the tree, and it will control the emerald ash borer because the pesticide is in the plant sap. And if you don't treat for emerald ash borer, the ash trees will be coming down sooner or later because that particular insect is becoming pretty widespread, and most ash trees are going to succumb to it.
Okay, and let's go to the other line. You're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
Hi, can you use Roundup on garlic mustard?
Yes, Roundup would control garlic mustard, but it would control everything that's there too. So you have to be careful with Roundup because it's a non-selective contact herbicide, which means that anything that it comes in contact with will be affected by it. Now, the trees that have corky bark can handle a little bit of it, but if you treat every year with Roundup, it does accumulate in the tree. So be careful with it. If you're going to spray and you've got a plant that you want to save in the area, put a pail or something over the plant so that none of the herbicide gets onto that plant. Because once it dries, it's not volatile. It will not move. So you just want to spray the plants with Roundup, let it dry, and then you can uncover the plants. The other thing, too, is that there is no residual in the soil. What happens with Roundup is it's sprayed on the plant takes it up and translocates it to wherever the plant is growing, and it screws up some of the physiology of the plant, and it turns a nice color of brown in about a week to 10 days.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, let's go to the other line. We are broadcasting on 1430 WBEV and our live video stream on dailydodge.com. So let's go to the other line. You're on the air with Dick Zondag from Jung Garden Center.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
I have 2 apple trees, fruit trees.
Okay.
I've tried spraying them. They're more than 5 years old.
Okay.
They produce fruit, but there's one year I sprayed them every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
One year I sprayed them in the beginning.
Right.
Last year I sprayed them, I think, again every weekend, but every time I spray, it rains.
Yeah. See, and the problem with the pesticides that you use to make apples is that you have to spray them every week to 10 days or after every rain, because the rain does wash the chemical off the plant. One of the things that I always tell people is that you have to use an integrated pest management, and part of that is cleaning up the apples that are on the tree or on the ground, taking all the leaves away, because the initial infection for apple scab and some of the insects also overwinter on the ground around the tree. So you got to make sure that you get all the apples out of the tree once it goes dormant, and clean up all the leaves, get them out of the area, because the fungus is most effective when the tree is most susceptible when the leaves are just coming out and when the blossoms are just coming out. And so that's the time that it's most important to get that initial spray on. The other thing you can use too is a dormant spray, which can be applied pretty much right now, because you want to get the tree before the leaves have fully expanded, and the amount of dormant oil that you use is pretty much the instructions on the label will give you how much of that oil to use per gallon of spray, and then you want to spray the tree to drip so that the whole tree is covered, and then all the soil and leaves and grass around the tree too, because that's where most of the insects overwinter, and that sort of a general house cleaning of things that are in the area that can cause the disease and the insect problems.
Wow, that's great. Great advice. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for your call, and that's why Dick Zondag is here, to dispense great advice on your gardening questions. Let's go to the other line. We have time for at least one more caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good
what
morning.
do you have for information on hollyhocks if I want to plant hollyhocks?
Okay, well, hollyhocks is a perennial or a biennial. If you plant the seed in this spring, you'll get the foliage growing, and then the flowers will come next spring. We also have hollyhocks available at the seed company, and in the next week or so, our perennials will be out. And you want to plant them in a sunny area because they love to have sunlight, and they're not heavy feeders. So if you fertilize them when you plant them, they should do just fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. Always good to hear a satisfied customer, Dick.
Yep.
And we do not have any more callers, so we'll stop with the calls. I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned about Roundup, how it's indiscriminate. It'll kill everything around you.
Right.
Is there a more discriminating product that works as well as Roundup that discriminates between good and bad?
Really not. There are some herbicides that you can use that will take grass out of perennials, but when you think about it, most plants have the same type of growing systems, and so what affects one perennial weed would affect another, and that's why with the broadleaf weed killer that I recommend for dandelions and for creeping Charlie is Weed Beater Ultra. Weed Beater Ultra will control the perennials that you have in your perennial garden too. So it's good to get the weeds controlled, but not to get too close to your perennial gardens because it'll control them too. So with most of the herbicides that you use, you have to be pretty careful that you use them as the label says, and that you kind of figure out what they control, and then you just use them discriminately.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And before we wrap things up, again, what's happening at the store, Dick?
Okay. Well, the potted nursery area is open. I brought a few examples of some of the things that we have available right now. The perennials and the annuals, and most of the perennials will be available by May 1. So going to start looking pretty colorful around our area. Hanging baskets are available. We are also still selling bare root, although we are very limited in the number of things that we have because most of it was sold through the catalog, and so there are a few things left, but we have strawberries, we have a rhubarb. Potatoes can be purchased yet and planted, and you get a nice crop. Asparagus is still available, and then all the seeds. We have a lot of great seed varieties. Some of the more popular things are sold out, but we also have recommendations in that area for things that you can use if your favorite vegetable is sold out. So we're ordering a lot more seed for next year because we know that we're going to have another good year next year. So, the stores are ready for you. They've got all the different things that are available, and we're hoping that people will come out and get their things for their garden. So the store hours in Randolph are 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 on Saturday, and of course we're not open on Sundays in Randolph. The stores in Madison and Stevens Point and Sun Prairie, the hours are 8:30 to 6:30 Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6 on Saturday, and 10 to 3 on Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Dick, for again dispensing your great expertise, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Thank you, John.
And the preceding program was a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the program were solely that of Jung Garden Center, not WBEV 95X or Good Karma Brands. ABC News is next.